All right, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Orange Crush podcast and a long overdue episode with the Eric Mac Lain of the ACC Network. You can find him on Graham and Mac Lain, Murray and Mac, or a film breakdown or two that's gotten the fan base all riled up. Eric, how are you doing, man?
Man, I'm great. Great to be with you guys. Glad to see David figured out how to do the login button or got his internet working or something. It feels like the last 3 times I've done this, he's been like a robot or not here. So it's good to see you, David.
Well, he just knocks himself out of it. It's the internet challenges that come with this. We're running on a speedy timeline, so we're going to get him in.
If that was for real, he was joking. I was going to say, if that was for real, that would be so funny if that happened.
Well, his screen isn't there, so we're just going to go through it while he's figuring it out. But Eric, I think that when it comes with a Clemson podcast, I think the first question everyone's going to be asking you is the what's wrong question. So I'm going to flip that and ask you, with 5 games left that are guaranteed for Clemson, because a bowl game is still not confirmed yet, what do you want to see out of this group?
You know, man, I think it's certainly the way to look at it, because what's wrong? I mean, you're at the halfway point. You're probably, there's a lot of things wrong, and will they get fixed? Probably not. My biggest thing, especially with the quality of opponents that they have coming up, you look at Duke this weekend, who's a very good football team, very balanced, has one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC, has a stingy defensive line that's going to try to hit whoever's at quarterback and take the ball away. Then you've got an FSU team that still talented. I know they stink just like we stink, but obviously they hammered Alabama and for a reason, and they still have all those guys on that team, and how do they respond as an electric player as Tommy Castellanos will be fascinating to see just his availability and is he ready to go there? A Louisville team at Louisville Friday night that can run the ball as good as anybody. That's probably pretty terrifying. That game might look a little similar to a year ago where we saw Louisville run the ball like crazy. Isaac Brown getting healthy at the right time. Furman is what it is, and then again a talented South Carolina team at South Carolina that, for similar reasons to Clemson, can't get out of their own way. So there's a lot of opportunity on this schedule. And the biggest thing is I just want to see, which is crazy that I'm saying this about a Clemson program, guys play with great effort. Like that's what I want to see. I want to see young guys get their opportunity. I want to see us maybe rotate a running back. I've heard for 2 years, we just didn't get that guy in. Well, get him in the game. Figure it out. Get the good rotation. Who steps up at wide receiver might be interesting. If Tristan's the guy and he doesn't get another year, that doesn't really do anything for you. It's cool this year and it's cool for his story, but if he does get that extra year because of the different laws or lawsuits that are happening, that could be a huge story. And then just what's the other depth pieces? We're going to get to this stretch where there's 4 games left here after this weekend. Do we see some of these younger guys that maybe we're planning to redshirt now get back in and get some opportunities? I'm pretty close to flipping the page to looking at 26. Like, we need to know who we have and what we need to do, in this offseason.
I wrote a story kind of about that this morning about portal combat coming up, right? Yeah. So now there's one portal window, and the coaching staff, they need to know, is Christopher Vizina a guy that we're going to rely on? Is Gideon Davidson good enough? Do we need to go get a running back in the portal? Because it's obvious after a couple of years, and Jay Haynes will be back.
Right.
But we don't know what David Eziamume is. We don't know what Gideon Davidson is. Yeah, at some point, why not, take a look at some of these kids and figure out, if you're Kevin Kelly, who are we keeping? Who's going to be asked to maybe go somewhere else in this new age? What do we need to go after? And then I'm like, what do you have to lose at this point? Because you're not winning the ACC. You're not even close to, qualifying for a bowl game at this point. You just got to go out and find out what you got and prepare for 2026. I know that bowl practices are important. Those extra days that you get with the kids in December, they're important. But, a trip to Fenway or a trip to the Military Bowl, just not that important when you start looking ahead to 2026.
No, I think, again, crazy that we're sitting here saying this. And I hope no one in that program maybe thinks that way just because, you want to win at all costs.
Right.
But I might think that being on the road recruiting is more important than those practices. I think being on the road, evaluating, hosting, transfers, is maybe more important than those practices. And that is crazy. It's crazy to sit here and say, but there's a double-edged sword with that because you're not practicing. You're lifting. You're getting stronger. You're getting faster. You have that full winter workout that Clemson has not had in who knows how long, that now you get that back. And it could be a really nice reset, for this program and to go back to literally ground zero and build this thing up. Of course, a lot of changes. Joey Batson will be out after this year. What other staff changes occur, we'll see. I have to imagine there are some. So it's going to be a fascinating, not only, month and a half left of the season, but also a very quick peak of interest, come December or come November, 30, whatever, when that last game is played.
You look at the tape, and those YouTube videos have been absolutely fascinating because it's nice to have somebody in the building that's kind of understands the language, understands the expectation. And I mean, you've been brutally honest on these film reviews. Could you just maybe talk about what you've witnessed on there, specifically what you've broken down? And even before you get on camera, you're like, oh my gosh, it feels like you're doing this, looking at these maybe 3-4 times to confirm what your eyes and what your mind is telling you. What do you see on film, and what do you maybe see as, okay, this could be correctable? Because there's a variety of issues, but what's been kind of your takeaways from that?
Yeah, I'm not correcting you. I'm just pointing. I'm not in the building, so I don't want anybody watching this being like,
Well,
"What the heck?"
You've been in there before. You've been in there before,
for sure, and have an idea of what it should look like. This is also a brand new offense with the air raid with Garrett Riley. I've never sat in one of his meetings. Never been allowed to do anything of that nature. So, terminology, what those guys are taught, clearly different from what, Coach Morris, Coach Elliott, Coach Scott taught when I was playing, just based on results and based on what we've kind of seen there. But with all that said, anyone can take a look at what I'm showing you. And when I slow it down and show you a different angle, you can see that there's an issue. You can see that there's a problem. You can see a quarterback staring right at where a receiver is or about to be wide open, not throwing the football. And that was probably the biggest shock right away, that you're just kind of sitting here like, what are we doing? That ball needs to be out. You're a senior. You're a really good quarterback. Why aren't you playing to that level? And there have been flashes. I don't know if we're quite regressed all the way back to 2 years ago where that was just hard to watch, quite frankly. But we might be, because this team's better. Like, the receivers are better. There's a higher expectation. So it might be a similar, kind of mindset there. And how that happened, I don't know. Some people in the preseason, and I'm sure a lot now, are pointing to, the schedule a year ago and the wins that Clemson did had and who they played. And, the losses were the really good teams that they played a year ago. And maybe there is some validity to that they had a lighter schedule and they were able to accomplish more with that. And that's part of it. But we expected such a big jump that we just didn't get from that position. Any jump, no progress was made, at that position. If anything, a little regression, which I think is super unfortunate and, just really disappointing. Then you look at the offensive line, which is the latest one that I did. And again, I know Matt Luke from afar and don't know how he teaches, don't know how he coaches. Maybe some of that stuff is what he's doing, and guys aren't executing or whatever it looks like. But you see it there. You can go watch it. It's the most recent one I did, and it's not good. And it's frustrating because that's my position, obviously, and something I take great pride in, that I helped build there, which was not natural, which I had to put in the extra work, which I had to make happen, kind of on my own and with my coach's helps and with my teammates' help. I had to put in that extra time. And and the stuff, David, that I'm seeing, it's just like, it's day one mess ups. It's silly mistakes that, again, I don't know if they're being coached not to do it. I don't know if they are just blatantly not coachable. I don't know if they're not good. Because I thought that going into this season, a group of really old, experienced veterans would be the strength of the team. And it's not. And that's unfortunate, because I like those guys. And this is a business conversation. This isn't a personal. Like, I love those dudes and would help them in any way, shape, or form that I ever can. Anybody that comes through that program. But you're getting paid now. There's money now. There's investments. People are donating, giving. There's no return on that. We don't see anything back when you give NIL dollars. There's no tax break. There's no point really to do it other than you want to win and you want to help and you want to be a part of something. And I think all of that is kind of, we're at a point where it's just a different game than when I played.
Before we get back to this video, we'd like to thank the title sponsor for this podcast, Newton, Scott and Associates. This team is headlined by Jeff Scott, former Clemson assistant coach and two-time national champion, as well as Eric Newton, a longtime local and trusted real estate partner. These two are teaming up to provide a first-class experience for all Clemson fans. Whether you're looking to buy, sell, or build in the upstate area of South Carolina, you can trust Newton, Scott and Associates. Choose the same team that Clemson coaches are selecting when they're looking to buy, sell, or build, all the way from Tigertown to Lake Kiowee. For more information, you can find them at newtonscottsc.com or by calling the number 864-722-9062. That's 864-722-9062. Now, let's get back to the video.
And we asked Garrett Riley a few weeks ago, I did specifically, hey, why not the window dressing? Why not the motion that you see other teams use? And part of his answer was, we can't confuse our offensive linemen.
Sure.
And I'm like, okay, whatever, that says a lot. But, the more that I dig into this and the more that I talk to people, I don't think Matt Luke's forgot how to coach.
Right.
I don't, I don't think Garrett Riley's forgot how to coach. Somewhere along the way, the message has been lost.
Mm-hmm.
And that just kind of goes back to leadership to me.
Yeah. And what do you do? Here's the interesting thing. And again, I have never sat in a meeting of Coach Riley's. I don't know. But I do know the air raid offense has never won a championship. I know that it's not successful when you play big boy football. And so was that a proper mind shift change when that hire occurred? Maybe. When I heard when that happened, he's running the Clemson offense, I was kind of like, okay, well, what's the point? Why are you bringing in something so drastically different from what the Clemson offense was? So I don't know, man. It's such an interesting thing. And you talk about the window dressing and things of that nature, which I get, but it takes a lot. And it is frustrating to see something that is, as vanilla as it is at times. And then when you do, you try to, put a wrinkle in and you put a backup quarterback in that's supposed to be very dynamic with his legs. Nobody blocks. He gets hit right in the face as soon as he gets the ball. You motion Antonio Williams in to run some trickeration at quarterback. Nobody blocks the end, gets hit as soon as he gets the ball. And it's just, I don't know. It's like the process of you try to do something, then it doesn't work. And then the pulling has been so bad where guys are getting out in space, not hitting, not expecting contact. I mean, you go back and watch SMU, any time that the tackle went down, right or left, that defensive end is flying at 45 degrees with no regard for a puller, which should be a kill shot. Like if you see that, you should be ear hole knocking that guy out. And it's like it was a surprise when guys got over there, barely touched him, tackle for loss or blowing something up. Or they did that TE stunt where the end is crashing down, kind of washing the tackle as he goes for a double team on a 3 technique or climbing to a linebacker. And the swooping over, crossing over tackle is blowing up the puller. So it's things that if I can see it, I know they can see it. And I know that they know better than I do that adjustments have to be made, man. And they just, it's not at this point. It was 3 weeks ago. Like now it's just, like I said, I think you're looking to 26 and you're figuring out what you have and who you got, kind of in the foxhole with you, and who's talented enough. Again, this is a more than ever before production business. It's not, I like you. It's, can you play? Are you coachable? Do you put in the work? Are you going to listen to what I say? And can you go and execute? And that's just, it's the unfortunate repercussion of money. And that's just is what it is. Guys wanted to be paid. You want to be, heavily, given things for what you do. Okay, that's great. And you are. But there's another level that comes with that. And I don't know if everyone involved realized that when those decisions, questions, begging for, were really happening.
Yeah, it's a big one. Eric, do we have time for maybe one more quick question? We need to get you out.
Yeah, we're good.
So yesterday we were on Wednesday's presser with Dabo Sweeney, and he was asked about the decommitments that have recently occurred. And I'm sure he knew about it before it was public, but the timing of it was rather humorous. That said, I have no thoughts on it. Onward we go. I check my phone 5 minutes later, and we get a notification that Keyshawn Stansel, 4-star commit for Clemson, had decommitted. You talk about getting back into the game and playing that game. What does Clemson need to do specifically in that avenue? I still believe that high school recruiting, you got to have that foundation through these high school prospects, and you sort of apply the rest of those needs through the portal. You fill those holes where it's needed. But you look at some of these big teams, the Ohio States, the Bama, sure, it's all through the portal. That's pretty fabulous, fantastic to look at, but high school recruiting is that foundation. How does Clemson get back to competing with some of the big dogs like they used to?
Yeah, well, I still think they are. And it is unfortunate, when you lose, guys like that. And it's so funny to me, like these love letters, man, that, recruits write or that, decommitments write or guys in the transfer portal write of like all this stuff. And then they, at the end of, they're like, I'm home. Well, you said you were home 3 months ago too. And it's just like, whatever, it's such a fascinating thing. Again, it goes back to money. Money's a big part of this thing. And for some guys, it's a big decision point. And if somewhere is able to offer more and show more, then what else are you going to do? If this is life-changing for you right now in this moment, I get it. It is what it is. It's hard to have a vision past right now for such young people. And, not saying that Clemson has an issue with that, but you're just going to run into that more, with anybody, not just any particular case that just recently happened. I have no idea about that. But, and I think the other part of it, it kind of feels right now that guys might be leveraging this Clemson offer. Guys might be leveraging this Clemson commitment and saying, well, look, I got this from these guys. I got this from Clemson. What can you do? Because Clemson, we don't offer everybody. Very selective with what they do and how they do it. And it's kind of fascinating that might be used against them a little bit in regards to a prospect might hold that and be able to leverage that. And again, I'm not in the recruiting world. I couldn't tell you any of these guys. Doesn't matter any to me until they get on campus. So it's a fascinating thing, man.
Fascinating for sure. Eric, plug your stuff before we get out of here. Where can fans find you?
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me, man. I'm sorry it's so busy. Whatever reason, this week, this day is piling up quickly. But Eric Mac Lain on any socials, check me out. I appreciate all of your support. And on YouTube, as you mentioned earlier, Mac and Murray, Gramlich and Mac Lain, some really fun times there that we have. And again, Tiger Nation, we're going to be okay. Clemson family, we're going to be okay. Ebbs and flows, baby. In a little bit of a valley, that mountain's right on the horizon. I appreciate y'all, man.
There you have it. That's Eric Mac Lain. You can find him everywhere that he just mentioned, and you guys should go do it. He does really good stuff. Guys, thank you as always for tuning in. Subscribe for more. God bless y'all. Have a good one.